we hired more experienced servers, started training our team, testing them on a weekly basis. We spent a bunch of money on really expensive plates and glassware and silverware. We went from 2 stars to 3 stars to 4 stars. We were on top of New York City. And eventually I stumbled on an envelope, the world's 50 best restaurants. We were relentless in our pursuit of excellence. In the beginning, when charged with making something better, I did what anyone here would intuitively do, right? We doubled down in our pursuit of excellence with the product. That meant that in the kitchen, we hired better cooks, we sourced better ingredients, we brought in better pieces of equipment. It meant that in the dining room, we hired more experienced servers. We removed some tables from the room so we could deliver a better experience to fewer people. We started training our team in a very disciplined way, testing them on a weekly basis to ensure they had the knowledge required. We spent a bunch of money on really expensive plates and glassware and silverware. We were relentless in our pursuit of excellence. And within a few years, it started to pay off. We went from 2 stars in the New York Times to 3 stars in the New York Times to 4 stars. Just to be clear, that's the most stars you can get. We went from 0 Michelin stars to 1 Michelin star, and then became the only restaurant in the history of Michelin to go from 1 to 3 stars in a single year. We were feeling ourselves pretty hard, right? We were on top of New York City. And then one day I went into the restaurant to go through my normal morning routine. I said hello to all the servers in the dining room. I said hello to all the cooks in the kitchen. Gentle reminder, don't forget to do that. I think sometimes we can get so preoccupied with getting a jump on the day that we can skip that all too crucial step of just taking a few minutes to acknowledge the people we work with. Then I grabbed myself a coffee, went back to the office, started going through mail, and eventually I stumbled on an envelope. And in the upper left-hand corner, it said the world's 50 best restaurants. Okay, this is a big moment for me. And I'd imagine most people here have had one of these moments, right? Those where you can recall every detail vividly because it was that impactful in your story. This was definitively one of those for me because that list, well, it had become very important in my world. It was the first of its kind. The first to rank every restaurant on the planet against one another, and in doing so, it gave us a gift. Because, see, we'd achieved every accolade available to us in New York City, but with this, every restaurant on the planet except for one could do better. And while I don't believe that anyone does anything of true consequence just in pursuit of accolades, I mean, you're all in this room, you get it. They're healthy motivations, especially when you're leading a team. So I was fired up. I ripped open the envelope, read the letter. It said, "Congratulations, you've been added to the list of the 50 best restaurants in the world. Come to London in June for the ceremony." Obviously, we went. The awards themselves, they're a lot like the Oscars. Okay, you're in this larger-than-life auditorium. You're wearing your fanciest tuxedo. You're surrounded by your heroes. For me, the chefs that I looked up to my entire career, people that I desperately hoped to one day meet. But they're different from the Oscars in one significant way. At the Oscars, I'd imagine when you're nominated for an award, once they get to your category, you're desperate that they call your name. Here, if you're in that room, you already know you're one of the 50 best in the world. You just don't know where on the list you fall until you get there. They start at 50, they count down to 1. Here, you are desperate that they do not call your name for as long as humanly possible. We had assigned seating. Something about me, I like to gamify everything in life. I actually think it's one of my superpowers as a leader. I think we spend far too little time and energy just making work fun. People have asked me over the years, how did I challenge my team to get better and better and better? I always say, well, a big part of that was just taking the entirety of our work and breaking it up into as many little games as I could. Games we all liked playing. And well, anyone here who's ever played a game you like playing, you know, the more you play, the better you get. But I do like to gamify everything. And so when I saw we had assigned seating, I looked at where we were seated relative to where the restaurants who had come in number 1 through 5 the year before were seated, figuring there must have been a correlation. I turned it into a guessing game. In an expression of humility, given it was our first year, I guessed we'd come in number 35. Now listen. I'm sure of this fact because there must have been, right? Some of the normal preamble, the welcomes, the thank you for comings from the big debonair British MC behind the podium, but I don't remember any of that. All I remember was him kicking things off by saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started at number 50, a new entry from New York City, 11 Madison Park." And I was like, gosh darn it. See, turns out where you're sitting has absolutely nothing to do with where you fall on the list. In fact, the thing I never could have known, because we were the first restaurant called, it was my first time there, the real reason they give you assigned seating is that the camera guy knows where to train the camera so that they can project your reaction on the giant screen in front of the room. It's when everyone else, regardless of how they felt, would at least pretend to be happy and smile and wave. Guys, I looked like I'd just gotten kicked in the groin. They finished the countdown down to 1. We all filtered out of the main room into the adjacent one for cocktails. I remember I was in the corner nursing my wounds over a gin and tonic. But there was one chef. Actually, raise your hands. Has anyone here heard of the chef Massimo Bottura? Okay, just a handful. For everyone else, Massimo is one of the greatest chefs in the world. He has a restaurant in Italy. It would go on to become #1. This was the guy I was so excited to meet at these awards, but at this point I was too embarrassed. I'd given up on trying, and yet he walks right through the thick crowd up to me, extends his hand, shakes mine, and in his very thick Italian accent he said, "Hey, you looked really happy up there." Mortifying.